Chapter 8, Pumpkin Chiffon. "Look," said Josh. Wally looked where his brother was pointing on the bank across the river. Caroline and her sisters were down by the water, gathering sticks. The boys moved behind some wild rhododendron and watched. "What do you suppose they're up to?" "Your class isn't doing a project with sticks, is it, Wally?" Wally shook his head. "Maybe they're going to have a fire in their fireplace?" "The Bensons left them stacks and stacks of wood. This has got to be something else. What do you think, Wally?" Wally watched the girls without answering. He watched them holding the sticks up in the air, sort of like poles for a teepee. "A teepee?" he said. "That's it!" "Wally, you're a genius. They're going to come to the Halloween parade as a teepee and Indians. Eddie will probably be the teepee, and Beth and Caroline will be the chief and squaw." "Wow," said Peter. Wally felt sick. The Malloys would win for sure. Nobody had ever entered the parade before as a teepee and Indians. How could they ever top that? "How can we top that?" asked Josh. "We don't have to top it. All we have to do is stop it. All we have to do is dress up like something that would naturally knock down a teepee. Think, everybody. A train? Not a train, dum-dum. A car? Peter, we're talking Old West here, way back before there were cars. Come on, Wally, what could it be?" Wally tried to remember pictures he had seen in his history book in the chapter called Westward Ho. "Buffalo," he said. "That's it. We're buffalo. We don't have to be vultures after all. Josh, you've got to design some new costumes." The boys went on home and made milkshakes in the kitchen to celebrate. "I didn't think there'd be a centipede." I'll bet they whispered that just long enough for Peter to hear so it would throw us off. They probably knew already they were going to be a teepee and Indians. All this time they'd probably been working on their costumes, the chief's headdress and everything, while we were trying to find something that looked like vulture claws. Ding dong! Jake had just turned off the blender and was pouring his thick shake into glasses when the doorbell rang. "Don't anybody take a drink of mine," Wally warned. There stood Caroline and her sisters holding a hat box. "Mom sent this over," Caroline said. "It's a pumpkin pie." Wally could not believe this was happening. The girls didn't look as though they liked this any more than he did, but Wally couldn't be sure. "Who is it, Wally?" called Jake. "A pie," said Wally. "Who?" Peter came running in the doorway. "It's a pumpkin pie," he said. "Enjoy," said Eddie, and the girls turned and walked away. "Don't forget to return the plate," Beth called. All four boys were standing in the door now. "I don't think their mom baked this at all," said Josh. "I'll bet there's a trick to it." "That's what they thought when they threw our cake in the river. Just the same, I'll bet it's made of dog mess or something. I'll bet the girls are ticked off because of what I drew on the back of my math paper." Wally opened the lid and took a sniff. "Sure doesn't smell like dog mess. I still think there's something gross in it, like centipedes, bugs of some kind." They took the pie to the kitchen and Wally lifted it out of the box. He accidentally let go of one side too soon and it fell to the table with a plop. A large crack appeared on the top of the pie. "Hoo, boy," said Wally. "It's okay. That will give us a chance to see if there's anything in the middle of it," said Jake. He got out Mother's magnifying glass and held it over the crack in the pie. "Do you see anything?" "Not yet. Give me a butter knife." Wally handed him a knife. "Looks okay, but I wouldn't be too sure. They probably wouldn't have stuck anything right in the middle of it. If I were going to put something gross in a pie, I'd stick it along the edge of the crust where you wouldn't think to look." Jake took the knife and probed everywhere near the edge of the pie. It appeared to be only pumpkin. "We still ought to taste it. It still could be made of mess or something. Who wants to be first?" "Not me." "Don't look at me." Everyone turned to Peter. "You always make me do everything," Peter said. "Oh, I'll take the first bite," cried Jake. He lifted the spoon to his lips and touched the first bite. Then he actually put some of it in his mouth. "I'll be darned. It's good," he said. "Let me see," said Josh. "You're right. It is good. Give me some," said Peter. And then Wally saw the note stuck on the bottom. "Oh, no," he said. "Dear Ellen, just wanted you to know how much we appreciated your boys washing our windows. There is such a wonderful sense of community here. Thank you so much for helping us to feel at home. Hope you enjoy my pumpkin chiffon pie. It's my great aunt's recipe and sort of a tradition at our house in October. Cordially, Jean Malloy." "Oh, brother, we are in big trouble," said Jake. They stared down at the pie, which looked as though squirrels had been walking through it in golf shoes. Bites had been taken out here and there. "Mom will kill us if she sees this," said Wally. Mother always said that a gift of food should be enjoyed 3 ways. First with the eyes, then with the nose, and finally with the mouth. If someone went to all this work to bake something for you, you should admire it first as an artistic creation. "What are we going to tell her? That we were digging for dog mess?" said Peter. "There's only one thing to do. Eat the pie. Then we've got to go to Ethel's bakery and buy another one. We'll put it in the box with the note and leave it on the table, and Mom won't know the difference. We'll take the plate back to Mrs. Malloy and tell her that Mom said thanks." The boys ate the pie more out of duty than pleasure, not because it wasn't good, but because they didn't seem to be hungry anymore. Afterward, Wally went upstairs to shake money out of his bank and wondered how life could be so complicated. Unfortunately, all the money he had was a clay piggy bank that Aunt Ida had given him last Christmas, and the only way anyone could get money out of that was to shake it upside down and hope something would fall out. He sat on the bed and shook and shook. How could it be that with so many dimes and nickels and pennies, hardly any ever hit the slot exactly right to come out? If one coin fell out every 10 minutes and there were 179 coins, then how long would it take before... "Hurry, Wally! We have to be home in a half hour. We need to buy that pie before Mom gets here, and we've only got $5 between us. We'll need more than that." Wally took a hammer and smashed his piggy bank into smithereens and scooped up his money. The boys were all in the other room quietly watching TV when their mother walked in the back door and clunked her purse and keys on the kitchen counter. "What's this?" Wally heard her say. There was a silence, a long silence, the sound of a box being opened, the squeak of the kitchen floor, then a long, slow, "I declare!" Wally held his breath. "I declare!" Mother said. Wally couldn't stand it. Neither could Jake and Josh and Peter. They all went to the door of the kitchen. "Well, now I've seen everything," Mother said, staring down into the box and holding Mrs. Malloy's note. "I don't see anything. Did this just come this afternoon?" Wally nodded. "Caroline and her sisters brought it over. Jean Malloy says in her note that she baked this pumpkin chiffon pie herself from her great-aunt's recipe, and this pie came from Ethel's bakery, or I'll eat the box." Wally almost choked. How do you know?" "Because Ethel's the only one who sprinkles caramel and pecans around the rim of her pumpkin pies. And what's more, she always leaves a little swirl of filling right in the middle, sort of a trademark, you might say. I saw these pies in her window just this morning, and Jean Malloy's got the nerve to tell me she made it herself." "Oh, boy," Wally thought. Maybe they should tell Mom. Maybe they should just come right out and tell her that when she sent that chocolate cake over Mrs. Malloy in August, Caroline thought it was a trick and threw it in the river, so the boys thought maybe this was a trick and they just dug around in it. But then he thought how awful Mom would feel if she knew her beautiful cake had gone in the river. She'd want to know why Caroline would suspect such a thing, and then he'd have to tell her all the ways the Hatford boys and the Malloy girls had been tormenting each other ever since they arrived. No, he had better keep quiet. If the woman doesn't bake, it's not a sin. Why couldn't she just have said she had picked up the pie for our dinner and hoped we'd enjoy it? Why'd she have to say she baked it herself, and then to call it pumpkin chiffon, when pumpkin chiffon pie is at least 2 inches high? If this is the way they do things in Ohio, I'm glad I don't live in Ohio. Boys, wash up. We're having dinner soon."